So before we get started on our tour, I would just like to note the physiographic features which I will be presenting to you today. So I actually did 4 features instead of 3. So my first one is Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. My second feature is the La Cumbre volcano, which is in the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador. My third is the Big Island in Hawaii. And my fourth is the St. Elias mountain ranges in southern Alaska, southwest Yukon, and northwest British Columbia in Canada. So I'm first going to take you to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. Just wait for it to get there. So currently the continent of Africa is splitting into 2 parts due to tectonic movement. This split is creating a way for the formation of a new ocean. It was first identified in Ethiopia towards the Horn of Africa, and this split is recognized as the East African Rift. And this rift stretches from the Gulf of Aden in the north all the way to Zimbabwe in the south. And this isn't the first time something like this has occurred. These underground forces were also responsible for the breakup of Pangaea, as well as the subsequent breakup of Laurasia and Gondwanaland. And the rise in magma within the interior portions of the African plate is mainly what is responsible for the breakup of the continent. Within the process of it, there's a lot of environmental changes such as the Horst and Graben separation. I want to focus specifically on Zimbabwe's Victoria Falls because I think this is a beautiful location and a prime example of this occurrence. The Horst is the upthrusted blocks of land resulting from rifting, and rifting leads to the downthrust of land called grabens, and grabens are depressed chunks of land, and the slope that separates both of them is called escarpments. And this is basically how Victoria Falls is made and how there's a waterfall. And we can see here that Horst and Graben effect. For my second feature, it's the La Cumbre volcano, which is in Ecuador. Just wait for it to get there. So the Galapagos Islands, which lands almost straight on the equator and is just west of Ecuador, it's a part of the Ring of Fire and is contained with the Nazca Plate, and that is between the Pacific Plate and the South American Plate. The volcano on the island of Fernandina, within the islands is called La Cumbre and is considered an active volcano due to its last eruption being on January 12th of 2020. It's considered to be a summit caldera. Summit calderas forms on pre-existing composite volcanoes. The actual caldera happened during an explosive eruption in 1968, causing the collapse. In comparison to a summit caldera, a normal caldera is when a large depression that forms when a volcano erupts and collapses. So during a volcano eruption, the magma that is presented within the magma chamber underneath the volcano is expelled very forcefully, and once the magma chamber is emptied, the support that the magma had once provided inside the chamber disappears, and often causes the sides and tops of the volcanoes to collapse inwards. So if I zoom in, well, so I zoom in. But if I zoom in, you can see the collapsed volcano. For my third feature, I did the Big Island of Hawaii, and I'm just gonna wait for it. So I'm gonna zoom out because the Big Island is the primary source of, I'm gonna talk about mantle plumes, but I also want to emphasize the other islands as well because they play a part in this. And so the Hawaiian Islands were created by mantle plumes, and mantle plumes, also known as hotspots, occur when magma is pulled to the surface within the interior regions of a plate. So in the interior regions of a plate, most tectonic activity, whether it's an earthquake or a volcano, this usually takes place along the boundaries of the plate. So they'll commonly crash into each other, or crash into other plates or rip apart from other plates, but with mantle plumes, we're looking at activity within the interior portion of the plate, whether it's underlying an ocean or a continent. The hotspot will often stay in place via upwelling of magma that is stationary, but the plate above will move, going back to Hawaii, situated under the biggest island, also known as the Big Island of Hawaii. Underneath the Big Island is this mantle plume. All of the Hawaiian islands were actually created through this common hotspot. The oldest island, Kauai, which is northwest of the mantle plume, is no longer volcanic, but going down southward, again, this big island, the Big Island of Hawaii, that's where you'll find more volcanic activity as well as more younger islands. So going from northern islands down, you'll find more elderly islands, specific northwards, and the more south you go, you'll find more volcanically active islands and more younger islands. And for my last one, I did the St. Elias Mountains. So in between Canada and Alaska, the St. Elias mountain range spans from Wrangell St. Elias National Park and Preserve in the U.S. all the way to Kluane National Park and Reserve in Canada. It includes all of Glacier Bay National Park, which is in Alaska. And the overall mountains are formed from continental convergence, which is when the continental crust becomes too buoyant, resulting in both sides wanting to lift. Within this, subduction is very limited with continental convergence, and as oceanic sediments are squeezed and upthrusted between the plates, the Yakutat microplate and the North American plate, the continental crust, as these convergent boundaries are folded, faulted, and thickened, form great mountain chains of uplifted rock. So that's how the mountains are created. They're actually lifted because the continents are sliding on top of each other. They don't have that subduction. Within this type of convergence, volcanism is rare, mainly because subduction is needed to force crust back down into the asthenosphere and back down to the upper part of the mantle to have that magma forced back upwards. And so that's how you get those mountain ranges, is the continental convergence. I hope you enjoyed my tour of my physiographic features. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.